Good morning, Grace College. I hope you're doing well at home. I hope classes are going well. And I'm excited to bring you another couple of videos from the Digital Chapel Studio. This morning, we're going to hear another student testimony from Maia. I'm really excited for Maia to share with you. And in light of everything that we're facing, in light of everything that we're going through, I thought it would be really great for us to hear from our director of the Health and Counseling Center, Dr. Deb Musser.
Hi guys, welcome to Chapel Online. If you don't know me, my name is Maia. I am a fourth year senior here at Grace, and I'm studying English literature with a minor in marketing and management. So it's an interesting mix, but I absolutely love both sides of that. But I was invited to kind of talk about what's going on in not only, our Grace community right now, but, the world right now. And we both know it's all kind of scary right now. We're not really sure what to do, and we're just kind of taking it one step at a time. And that's obviously just the best thing that we can do right now. But what I really wanted to kind of dive in here is, the kind of emotions that we have of fear and uncertainty right now, especially as seniors. Obviously, when we got that, message from Dr. Caleb a couple of days ago about, all of our classes being moved online and we're not coming back for in-person classes, I don't know about you, but my heart kind of dropped and it kind of shattered a little bit because maybe like you or like me, I wanted to savor those last 8 to 9 weeks that I had with my friends, upperclassmen, freshmen, lowerclassmen, the professors that I've grown so close to in the 4 years of being here at Grace. I wanted to savor those last moments that I had with them. I wanted to experience, my last junior senior banquet, my last joust, capture the flag, my last paranoia game, all of those things, the NCCAA basketball tournament that we've all grown to kind of, be excited for after spring break. All of those things I was looking forward to and, experiencing them with my friends and, the faculty here at Grace. And you know what? Again, like many of you, I feel that my time was robbed in a sense. I won't be able to get some of those memories back of sitting on Beta Field and watching intramurals or just sitting, laying in the grass, basking in the sun, talking to our friends about who knows what. And it's okay. I'm sad. I'm sure you're sad. Some of you may be excited, and you know what? I'm so happy for you because that's an emotion that not a lot of us are feeling, and I encourage you to bask in that. But for those who again are sad and hurt and heartbroken, your feelings are validated. All of them are. And I encourage you to feel those feelings right now. And that might not be what many people may say, but I think it's important for you to understand that your feelings are valid. Don't be upset that you feel this way because I can guarantee you're not the only person who feels that way right now. And there's that, But what I will encourage you to also do, and what I challenge you to do, is not stay there for very long. And you know what? That may be hard because we're all quarantined in our rooms or in our houses right now. And you know what? Some of us may have not, had fresh air in a while, but you know what? You're going to get through it because not only do you have your friends via, phone, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or even email, or if you want to go old school and write a letter, I'm always down for that. But again, you're not alone in that aspect, but we also all have this commonality that has brought us together at this one place, and that is our relationship with Jesus Christ. And as cliche as it may sound, it's the truest thing that will come out of my mouth today in this video. But He is and always will be with us in our times of happy, sad, uncertainty, and fear. And there's nothing more comforting in the fact that I know that I have someone that's always looking out for me. in my times of fear and again, uncertainty, because like many other people, especially as seniors, we had 8 weeks to kind of get our life together. Some of us weren't even looking for jobs or thinking about what our next steps were besides, after graduation. And now we are kind of shoved into the idea of, oh, I'm not going back to school, so I guess I should start looking for a job, or I guess I should kind of figure out what my life is going to be because I have to now. And that's just the real world fact of it. But as I kind of, dive deeper into all of the feelings, I want to talk about a couple of verses that I looked at to kind of help us get through this time of, again, fear and uncertainty and, the next steps. And one of those verses was Joshua 1:9. And it says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." And again, that was Joshua 1:9. And to me, that is comforting because I know that even through the storms of my life and the, questions that we all have, I know that there was someone standing in front of me, behind me, and on both sides of me who really care about what my life is going to be, what my, the next plans of my life. I may not know that. And you know what? As a planner, it's hard. We're not going to discredit that because it's hard. But also keep in the back of your head that there is someone always on your team. It may not feel like that right now, but he's always there and he will always be there. And going deeper into that, another verse that I have is Isaiah 12:2. "Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and I will not be afraid, for the Lord God is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation." And again, that was Isaiah 12:2. And just kind of going back to that, lean onto God right now. Take this time that we have to dive deeper into our words and, our relationship with God. And you know what? And if that's just sitting in your room or in a place where you feel comfortable and just listening to what God has for you right now, that's what you need to do. Because sometimes, even though, at least for me, when I'm reading my Bible or doing a devotion, it's not coming up here. I'm not hearing what God wants to tell me right now. But when I take that moment to sit and actually be silent in my thoughts, all of his words come to me and I know what his vision for me is. It may not seem automatic, but it's there. Again, I just urge you to take that time and seek out God's voice because it's there. Jesus is always at the door. It's just whether we want to invite him in or not. So there's one thing about, the fear that we all have right now, and not only for, our next steps of life, but for, the world right now. And again, like that can be hard to kind of sit there and do, but I promise you it'll be worth the time that you have to sit there and contemplate on that feeling. And then one verse that I have when it comes to uncertainty is Psalm 56:3, and Psalm is one of my favorite books of the Bible, and that is, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." So for everyone who is feeling, again, just numb right now in the aspects of what's going on in our world, remember, God always has a plan for what he wants the world to become. And we know that. And I, again, encourage you to feel comfort in that aspect, even though, again, it's so hard. And another thing that I want to say to kind of wrap up is we were built for this. And I can't take full credit for that. But again, as we are doing online churches now, one of my favorite online pastors is Pastor Mike Todd from Transformation Church. If you are just looking to see another view or kind of explore online pastors or just anything, I encourage you to check him out. He live streams on YouTube every Sunday at around noon Eastern Standard Time. But one of the things that he said is that the church was built for this. Take a second, push back all of the, unknowns, and really look and see. We are forced to have churches inside our home. We are forced to have this time to sit and put all of our worries aside, whether it comes to, the outside world, financials, or, relationships, and just, again, those uncertain things. And we are forced to open up our Bibles again. And we now have that time that we may have kind of pushed to the side of no longer really doing our devotionals as often as we should, or spending, again, that time with God just to sit and reflect. We have that time now. Think of that as a gift, because I know for me, when it comes to the hustle and bustle of everyday life and being in school and such, one of the things that goes on the back burner is me spending time with God. And that's not the greatest thing in the world to do, or to, kind of push to the side, but it is a factor sometimes. It honestly just happens. Life happens. But now, with all of the free time that I have those moments to, again, open up my Bible, dive deeper into what God is telling me and what he wants me to accomplish, what my calling is for him and the church community of Christ. So again, remember, the church was built for this. Church started at home. And church started at homes, and then it grew into something else. Again, church is not a place that we go to, but church is a place where we can, have that community. And if that starts in the home, just think about how great our world can become when we start putting, things back into perspective. Again, praying at the table, praying in our times of uncertainty, and praying in times of, glorious situations. And again, to be thankful for the things that we have. So again, I'll just leave you with these verses that I just had. They were Joshua 1:9, Isaiah 12:2, and Psalm 56:3. Just so you guys know, I'm praying for all of us, especially our seniors. Again, it's hard, but I know that we will all get through it. It'll be one of the funniest things we can look back 20 years from now when we tell our grandkids, yeah, my school got canceled because of the coronavirus. And we'll all be laughing whenever this is all over. But again, I encourage you to stay strong in your faith. Smile every once in a while. And when it's not dangerous anymore, give people a hug and let them know that you love them, you care for them, and you're praying for them. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
All right, welcome back to the Digital Chapel Studio. I'm excited to have Dr. Deb Musser here with us today. She's going to talk with us about anxiety. I'm going to ask her some questions. Anxiety is something you're probably hearing a lot about, whether it's talked about in the news or articles you're reading, or maybe even conversations you're having with friends and family. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to ask Dr. Musser some questions around this topic. So I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to jump in on our first question here. So why do you think, or why is anxiety showing up for us?
I think some people would, in response to that, say, anxiety is always my life, so I don't know if we're talking about showing up. And I want us to know and recognize that some folks live with this level of anxiety for a lot of their life. I would also say that there are some people that are experiencing anxiety that have not ever experienced it in this way. And this is not trying to be cheeky in response. I guess I would just say, I'm not sure why we would think it would be otherwise. We're living in a time that none of us have seen. In my whole of life, I can't even put anything to a context of what is happening right now. So anxiety, I think, is a God-given function that is about responding to what's happening around us. Now, undue anxiety, we don't live well there. But appropriate anxiety helps us be better to go talk somewhere, to be better in athletic competition. In this situation, anxiety is a picture of uncertain times, upside down world, confusion.
Yeah. I think that makes sense, and it seems like a really empowering thing to try to normalize this a little bit for people. I'm sure as students listen and think about this topic, it's a very empowering thing for them to hear you say that.
I hope that it's empowering, because I think as humans we tend to avoid this. I think we try to get onto the answer of tell me what to do so that it can go away. And in that, I think we invalidate. We invalidate the human experience, and we also invalidate what's happening inside of us. So normalizing, yes. Maybe not getting to the answer too quickly of what we do with it. Maybe instead we could start with what's going on that we might be having these reactions to.
Not trying to hurry our way through that. That's
Yeah.
really good. Well, another thing that keeps getting talked about is this idea of grief. So I wanted to ask, what do you think we're all actually grieving? Like, what is it specifically that we are all grieving in the midst of this?
Yeah, I think I've watched or listened to probably 3 in the last 2 days podcasts that are on this topic. I think they're linked, that our anxiety is tied in part to things that we are grieving. So when I start thinking about grade students and what they might be grieving, my mind goes everywhere. So I started making a list of all the things, and I started thinking about seniors who don't get to end in the way that they want to, unfinished conversations, the activities they wanted to do. So my mind goes to them. I think of athletes who have games or who had games to play, artists who had shows to put on, musicians who had concerts to do, and I think of all the undone things that we could be grieving. I think of applied learning, like when I think of student teaching and those kids who didn't get to hear the end of the story with them. I think of ministry moments, local churches where people are involved in things that did not get to be completed there. When I think of Grace Campus, I think about the long winters that we have and how we all long for spring, because in spring, man, the frisbees come out, we study outside, we find our soul and our happiness again. And I'm sad over that. It's like we left when it was still cold and gray, and we don't get to have the best times at Grace, at least in the spring part. I think that for some people, they might be grieving summer as an uncertainty. People who are working at camps or maybe starting a job that now are in hold. And all of this is surrounded by a world that is trying to figure out how to financially live, how to grieve the loss of people that are dying. That is taking our breath away. So I think the grief, I would say there, why wouldn't we be grieving? It is loss on so many levels.
All right, talk to us about what it would look like to not avoid the evidence of anxiety. You mentioned the hurrying through the process earlier, and I know I would be someone who, let's hurry up with this, Jesus. Let's move a little faster through this anxiety a little bit. So I'm wondering what it would look like if we said, okay, anxiety is present. What does it look like to not rush through this, to not avoid the evidence of that anxiety in our lives?
I hope that everyone can hear me say that I'm not asking us to stay in this place of stuckness related to what's going on, but to maybe see it as some kind of evidence that there is something going on. So I look at symptoms, I look at how we're responding as signals. In a God-given created body, God gave us a way to know what's going on deep inside when we may or may not know about that ourselves. So I think about some of the things that people may be experiencing, but they may not be understanding that it is grief or anxiety. So some of those things could include, I can't sleep anymore at night. My mind is rolling and I can't turn it off. Others are experiencing undue levels of irritability. Like I want to punch people that I don't normally want to punch. Some are experiencing, crying can happen on 2 sides. For some people, they are crying and they don't usually or typically cry. I'm a crier, I acknowledge that. And for me, it often happens opposite, that all of a sudden my tears disappear and I'm not responding in ways that would be my typical. Some folks probably see it in how they're thinking. It's harder for me to be able to come up with answers, to sit down and write a paper. My motivation might be really changing, and I have all the time now to do this homework, but it is so hard for me to do it. Appetite can be more or less. All of these symptoms can add up to a body saying, I want you to pay attention. Because though you may be looking like you're okay and acting like you're okay, you're actually wrestling with something deep inside. So that makes sense as far as the symptoms. Yeah, that makes
total sense. And I think there's a lot of power in we're not going to deal with things until we're able to name them, right?
Yes.
Until we're able to acknowledge them. So to have this happening in our bodies, in our minds, in our emotions, to have all those things be connected and to not be able to have verbiage or even the opportunity to name it, I think ends up having a pretty profound impact
Yeah.
on our health.
100%. I love the idea of naming it because I, again, think we'd so quickly just say, stop it. It's so very American, right? To say, like, what's the solution? Pull yourself up. Why are you still worried about that? Why are you still grieving? When instead to honor it and then say, how can I address the signals that my body's giving me so that it's not in such distress? Now, taking it all away, I don't know that COVID-19 is going away tonight, but I think addressing those symptoms is certainly something that we can do.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so on that topic, what can we all do? If we're acknowledging this anxiety showing up, we're acknowledging it even in our own lives, what can we do in response to that?
So I know I just said this, but again, I'm going to put the caveat out there. For those of you who are looking for the equation, if you were looking for the equation, Brent, of like, tell me what to do, Deb, and I'll be better, I would say these suggestions are not to annihilate how we're doing. They are to help us keep going and doing until we don't need to use them anymore.
Okay.
So the first thing I would think about is I would want people to know, I'd want you to know that this is normal. That when pandemics happen, which they don't very often, when hospitals are running out of space, when all of these things that we're hearing about often and every day are happening, we have a response. And so know that you are not abnormal. If anything, you are showing your humanness and having a response to tragedy and suffering around us. I think next I would think about leaning into faith. And I mean this in the most sincere way that we can sometimes apply Sunday school answers quickly without leaning into what's happening. But the truth of the matter is God is in the midst and pain and suffering are happening. I think we tend to do one or the other. All pain and suffering and God is absent, or God is on the throne. I will deny that those other things exist. And the fact is they do in tension, together live. So glad that the Word of God gets to show us those pictures. I'm glad that we get to see a Hannah who is lamenting, who is grieving, and who is talking to her God in such unabashed ways. I love that we get to see Job ask a lot of what people might say are audacious questions, and God allows that conversation because of the relationship of his own child talking to him about what's happening. So lean into faith. I will say this, I can't always explain it, but I know for the places where I have been the most grieving, God showing up is sometimes the only thing that makes sense of it. It's what gives me grounding, even though I couldn't explain it to someone else. I would say, and you may have been hearing this in lots of places, be careful of what you're listening to and watching.
What?
Not in terms just of Tiger King on Netflix, but also, honestly, with COVID, know your sources, choose really wisely who you're listening to, but also know your limits. We're going to have different places on a continuum of what our limit is. It's okay to say, I'm going to have a reliable source who checks in with me every couple of days to give me information. Some of you are empowered by information. If that's you, there again, choose wisely who and what you're listening to. And again, you get to say time out. Even if yesterday it was okay to check 4 times, today maybe 1 time. Establish a routine. So I don't know about you, but I have found myself, I don't know what day it is. I don't know. Sunday going to church looks just like the other days. And so this idea of routine, it makes sense. And the cool thing is when you have routine, I think it puts some order to that. I found myself thinking, I'm so glad that God did not make us with a timeless world. Can you imagine if we never had an end? So in that, having a routine of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do homework. Those of you who are trying to ignore homework, it's showing up when it's due for you. But I'm also going to put in creative times to be enjoying, times to move, times to interact, sleep. So I think that this can be a real easy time to think, well, I'm on break because it feels like break. But flipping those days and nights is super easy to do, and it does not work so well over a long time. So I think being very thoughtful about how routine helps us.
Yeah, I was just talking to my wife, Amy, and it would even go to show people are experiencing this differently. She still has to go into work every day. She's at a business she works at a pharmacy, and it's a business that's essential. And she said just the other day, oh man, I gotta get up. It's Friday for work, and I said something like, every day is Friday. Like I don't know, I don't know what day it is, right? So even people within a household are probably experiencing schedule in a different way, or students are experiencing potentially some late nights, that they're regretting and trying to get that schedule back on balance. I feel like that's really, really helpful.
Isn't it funny that we probably at another time would have just loved the thought of, and the fact of the matter is we're not
Right.
meant to live in that kind of vacuum.
In excess. Just
Absolutely,
not good. Yeah.
absolutely. Other things that I would say, take care of you. So what do I mean by that? In some, I think will probably perhaps scoff at this language, but breathe. So our body cannot be both panicked and relaxed at the same time. And breathing is a mechanism that actually helps change that. So for those of you who are noticing that you are breathing shallowly or you're breathing in ways that you just feel like there's a lot of heaviness on your chest, I would urge you to check out apps. There's a lot of really good apps on deep breathing. There's some YouTube videos, but that breath is a way that God has allowed us to kind of regulate, actually, even if the outward things do not change, we can regulate our inside world. Move, do things that feel good. It's really easy to get caught 8 hours later in the same position. I confess it's easy to not wash my hair or change out of sweats. But the fact of the matter is, like, getting up and moving, it's something about that is re-energizing for us, and I think it gives us space. Yeah, and just pay attention to what you need, I think. I think for some of us, going out and helping with the cooking, enjoying a conversation with someone else, those are the things that are going to remind us that I am taking care of me. Connect with others. You guys are probably hearing this. You've probably been doing this, Brent. But I would say connect in two ways. Connect with folks who will get it. And in some respects, I would say it would be great for college students to talk to other college students. But also talk to those that are not going to talk to you just about this present place. I think I've needed to call it a timeout for myself to not always be talking about how the world is upside down. Which leads me to the next idea, which is be mindful of what you're thinking about. Because the narrative that is there is the story that we tell. So when I am only talking about feeling trapped, that this is endless, that narrative round and round is my reality. So paying attention to your thoughts is important in lots of ways. I think that if we are in cycles that are really negative about us, that those also become informing to how we're looking at us, how we're looking to our world. It's good for me to pay attention to my narrative about God. Can you be a good God who's on the throne in the midst of this? Yes. But boy, my faith can be really tested in that. So being aware of what my thoughts are can be really, really helpful. Paying attention is helpful because no one else can jump into your head. Only you can manage that. And then I'm going to end with to me, is maintaining a sense of hope. There's been something really important for me to hear people say this will not last forever because it feels like it will. And the truth of the matter is every pandemic, every war, every situation in my life that has been hard, almost without exception, has had an end date. So I think you practice the art of living well day by day, trusting that there's going to be a day that it is not like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that hope is important. And a time like this, we will just wrap up the Easter season and be remembering back on that. So I think hope is really important in a time like this, you know, in the month of April especially, when you look at a situation like this and we, like you said, we don't know an end date, but to be able to hold on to hope and hope to endure. It's not just blind hope. It's not just you know, random out there, don't even know what we're hoping in. We're hoping in Jesus, but we have hope to endure as well through him, right? Through our trust in him. So I think that's wonderful. Well, this is great stuff. This is one of those chapels where I without a doubt in my mind, you all know someone who should hear these thoughts, who should hear these questions be asked, and should be sharing this chapel with other people. We've had a lot of really great chapels and have more to come, but this feels like a really special conversation in the midst of what we're all going through, what we're all thinking about. So as you know others who would benefit from this conversation, please feel free to share this link with them. And I hope that this has been an encouragement to you. I'm really grateful for your words. Thank you for being here.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
For those that would be listening to this and their level of distress is now going through the roof, their functionality is going down, it might be a good idea to look at therapy options. And believe it or not, the number of teletherapy options have increased substantially. So I guess I just would want our student body to know if anyone's running into problems finding that, reach out to the counseling center at grace.edu. We'd be happy to help you find something in your local area.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's a great way to connect to the counseling center and to connect to more resources for you all. So I want to thank you for tuning in to another Digital Chapel, and until we're together again.